let's start making this triangle shape with the hands. Let's start with it behind the back, so it's over the sacrum. Pretty much the same size as the sacrum. And we're just standing in riding horse. Having the hands behind just helps the sacrum forwards a little bit, which is what we want, so that it's underneath the heart. The sacrum is heavy. It behaves like a keel, the keel of a boat. Keeping the spine relatively vertical. And just dragging the body down into the legs. And then the same shape, but now up here. This is like the keel of the sternum. So instead of being heavy, it is light. So it's tending to drift upwards, whereas the keel of the sacrum pulls downwards. So we're just meditating, standing meditation, which is what riding horse is. So we don't want to look at anything. Feeling the space behind the eyes. As soon as you look at something, your mind is distracted. My fingers are like the head of an arrow that's pointing upwards. Same way that when I did the sacrum, that was directing energy downwards. It's easier to feel the down because it's just gravity. The up is more difficult. So you just basically have to wait and just be patient. And now let's just breathe. Flexing the spine. Breathing in, my front opening up. Breathing out, my back opening up. Now the same exercise, breathing, but using the figure of 8. Make like 2 figures of 8s. So they're touching each other. So here the backs of my hands touch. Then I go through the middle of the figures of 8, underneath, up here my palms touch, and then through the middle again. This is the difficult bit. Elbows are up. I'm trying to keep my shoulders relaxed, and my palms are trying to face upwards. And then underneath. And then I just let it become the breathing exercise. So this is like breathing in and leaning back a little bit. And then this is breathing out and flexing forwards. So you can let the eights tilt so that they're more on the horizontal plane. I'm using the figure of eight to try and open up the energy behind and below the depths. So the bottom of the figure of eight is dark and deep, and the top is bright and superficial. Not in a bad way. So when we reduce it, make it smaller, as I go back, it feels like I'm sinking into my kidneys. The bottom of the figure of eight of each hand then circles a kidney. And now let's just stand in riding horse. Hands behind again, making the triangle over your sacrum with the two hands. So you can push down a little bit with the hands, like you're pushing your own sacrum down into the legs. And then bring the hands out up to the sternum, but keep the sacrum where it is. Feeling the vast space behind your eyes. And now moving from leg to leg. Grabbing the ground. Lift the heels slightly of this leg, and that starts the leg bending and pulling at the ground and dragging my body into it. John told me once that if ever he gets bored with the Tai Chi, he always comes back to the two principles of softness and roundness. So here I'm becoming round. This leg, which is straight, this arm, which is straight, are becoming round. And I want to feel this point, my Dan Chen, as being the center of the roundness, the center of the circles. In order for the Dan Chen to be central, the lordosis in the lower back needs to flatten out. Normally, the lordosis in the lower back will thrust everything up like this. It's like I rear back and it pushes my heart up. So here I'm just trying to really get down, get squat, and just everything is just round. So everything's pulling into the Dan Chen. The arm is pulling into the Dan Chen. The leg is trying to. So the action of my leg is pulling my Dan Chen towards the foot. This is mind in Dan Chen, really. So without the roundness, it's very difficult to get mind in the Dan Chen and make it work when you're doing physical stuff. So you need to pull the Dan Chen in with the muscles of the belly. It's as though you're trying to, I'm trying to sort of suck my belly in and squeeze it into this region here, the lower back, so that the lower back sort of curves up like this, rather than doing this. Trying to get flexibility in the lower back, really. A lot of people, it's almost fused. There's almost no flexibility, no movement. Let's just bring it back. Bring the hands to the sacrum. So the thumbs are sort of approximately where your min men is, and your fingers are with the tailbone. So you have to make quite a big triangle. It's not really a triangle, it's more like a diamond shape. Pushing the sacrum down through my legs. Feel the sacrum trying to push up and back like this, because the legs don't really like the strain. So it's easier to control the sacrum when you've got your hands on it like this. And then just bringing the hands up. And now just feeling that light lift through the body. We don't want it to be strong enough to bring the body up. And my body is still sinking. I need 4 arms really. I need a pair of hands still on the sacrum. Something has to happen in the spine to let this area lift. So let's just have the arms crossed at the back. That's pretty much the point. That needs to go in a little bit. So like the weight of my arms, just push that point in. And then it gives my thymus, my upper sternum, a lift upwards. But there's a sense that what's beneath your arms, the part of your spine beneath your arms, is sinking down with the heavy sacrum, and the part of your spine above your arms is lifting up. So the curvature in the upper spine is just really straightening out. Imagine if your heart was really light, you'd be leaning back almost, and the upper back would be flat. And then we have to be careful that we don't pull the head back as well. So the upper back is flat, and then I've got to just pull my chin in and stretch the back of the neck. So where the arms cross, it's a real problem area in the spine. Why? I don't really know. We've created an environment for ourselves which doesn't require a great deal of attention, which frees the mind up to think to itself, which is the worst thing possible for your posture and your body. And also just, everything is now come down to the mundane, to the human universe. So this is what we're trying to break out of. So I want the sacrum to feel like it's just dropping down into the ground. It's becoming subterranean. And my upper heart is reaching up out of the human realm and into the sacred or the divine. We tend to think of our world as being big and open, but actually it's more closed than it's ever been. I want a sense that I can reach down into the ground, and also a sense that I can reach up to space. Now let's try reaching, so just stretching really. So bringing the feet up, don't let the legs straighten. They're about as straight as they ever are, but they're not straight. They're not locked at the knees. And I'm just reaching up alternately. Allowing my spine to really tilt over so that I can get as much extension with the arm as possible. My right arm is reaching up, but I'm actually sinking into the left foot. So just feel that point on the back where we have the arms crossed. So it's like from there upwards is with the arm, it's reaching. The fingers are trying to go through the ceiling. But from that point down on my spine, I'm sinking into this foot. So if we get the down and the up correctly, then the spine is always being stretched. It's always being lengthened. And now let's go into a wider riding horse type stance with the feet. The same thing, but on the horizontal. So I'm reaching for, so make a fist. So I'm grabbing something, making a fist, and then the hand opens as I reach forwards, and I make a fist to pull back. If you can, keep part of your mind with the heavy sacrum and also with the light, this triangle here, the light sternum. But the hand that comes in tends to be with your sacrum. The hand that reaches out is more with the sternum. So when I pull in with my right hand, I come into my right leg, and then the left arm and the left leg can both straighten. So it's the same action as when we move from leg to leg using the straightened leg to pull. So you can imagine you're pulling a thick rope, you're pulling in a boat, you're at the canal, someone's thrown you the rope, and you're just pulling in the boat, and it's heavy, so it will only move slowly. It feels like this is coming from my arm, but really it's coming from my leg. So I need to do exactly the same with this leg as I'm going to do with this arm. It's straight here, and then I bend it. I want to try and feel the power of the pull coming more from the leg than from the arm. So what the arm would do, it would appear, if you were using it, it would appear that your arm is moving first. But what your arm is basically doing is just taking up the slack. The arm takes up the slack so that I now have a tight, responsive system, and then the leg pulls. It's difficult to feel when we're doing it on our own, but if you're working with another person, you'd feel it. So my arms just tighten the system. Feel what it is in the leg. So it's the knee. See, this knee wants to flick out like that, and it's the hamstring. So that is the action that starts the turn to pull in the rope. I try and straighten the leg as much as possible, and then the bending of the knee will have a lot of power. Really turning, and you see my back foot is just, I've just pivoted on the toes so that I can sort of get my hips right round, and then I bring it back. So when they do this one, they go right down, so they get the back knee touching the ground. You need a bit of time to get into it. And so you can really go low. Bringing it back. And now let's turn. Now I just want to feel it's the same action with the legs. So as I turn away from the leg I'm turning away from is straightening, and then it bends in order to turn me back towards it. So this leg is straightening, the toes are reaching out, and then the toes grip and grab, and the leg bends, and that pulls me round. Bringing it back. Hands over the sacrum again. Just making the triangle. And just trying to work your sacrum down. Then bringing the hand up. Imagine that you've still got air hands on your sacrum, pushing you down. Now let's do the shoulders. So just bring the feet up so they're pretty close. So first of all, just try a little bit of just lifting the heel, feeling that the heel never really touches the ground. So you're wobbling from foot to foot. Two sides of the body are doing opposite things. That's producing this sort of lilt like this, but it's also producing a turn. This is basically walking. So when you're walking, you're alternating. You'd like your mind just to be with it. So we want the physical alternation here to sort of lull the mind into like a daydream state, a reverie. And it will tend to drift you into sleep if it wasn't so difficult. And now the shoulder. Very similar to reaching up. I just rotate, and at the top, I really want to feel it lifting the chest before it drops down behind me. So I'm really sinking into this opposite leg. Feel the vertebra in the upper back that need to push forwards a little bit to allow this release to be complete. Pause a sec. And now just going the other way. Make sure you reach back here. So again, I'm getting the heart to lift as I reach back. And then as I come over the top, there's this sense of rolling at the top, rolling forwards. letting it settle. Keeping the arms where they are, just imagine that you put your hands over the sacrum, making the triangle with the fingers. And that will just help you bring your attention to the sacrum. Get the mind in the down chair. You have to be familiar with your sacrum. And then just imagine you're doing this. You've brought the hands up to the sternum. So there's a lift here. And then just feel them both. So this is pointing down. And this is tending to lift upwards and tip you back a little bit. And now let's try 1 foot forwards and just the yielding. So again, the roundness, there's a sense of straightening here, though it never really becomes straight, and then instantly I round. So here something is released, but then instantly I'm yielding again. Elbows and knees. Here the elbow goes out to round the arm and the knee goes out to round the leg. So this place here beneath the collarbone, this place here in the inguinal fold, both of them have to hollow out to feel as though you're creating this vacuum, a space that's empty, so that the other person will be sucked in. The difficulty is to get it in the leg. So here this relaxes, sacroiliac relaxes, and that allows the knee to sort of do like a semicircle, to go out and then come back in forwards of where it is. Here, this has to round out. The thing to do is to just try and get the feeling. If you can feel it, then slowly the body will physically reproduce it. And this is just the wings. So here I'm pushing out. And then it's a real sense that I'm sort of doing this. I'm opening up the arm. And that is extending like this big wing from my shoulder blade, which is just a little bit further back than the arm. And I use to embrace the other person with. And the same thing here, there's like a wing that comes out pretty much the sacroiliac joint, where the hip joins the sacrum. And as I release that joint and move the knee out in this semicircle, the wing is extended down and around. So the arm wing is embracing the other person, and the leg wing is sort of dipping down and embracing the bit of ground beneath my foot. And then you have the same thing in the head. So as I'm yielding here, there's a sense that something is coming out of these points that we tap when we do this exercise from the warm-ups. Out of that, there's these plumes of energy that come out. And so when I round out the arm and round out the leg by softening here, I just want to sense that I'm soft. Somewhere in my head, I'm softening as well. I'm yielding. So something in me is just, oh, it's just drawing in like this, almost like I'm a bit shy and I'm sort of turning my head away. So if you can feel it in the head, it's easier to sort of reproduce the feeling in the rest of the body. The feeling in the head is much more emotional. It's like a way of looking. So here I withdraw, I come in, and that brings something out from behind me. The feeling of opening, which the hollowing is, it will tend to bring you up a little bit. And so this is the struggle really, to get it in the leg as well, so that it keeps me down. This just takes hours and hours of practice. So this is pushing hands. When we were pushing hands all those years, all those hours, we were just basically doing this exercise, albeit one hand at a time. And if you spent some of that time sort of concentrating rather than just chatting to your partner, or feeling, it's not so much concentrating, because that will tend to make people tense and anxious. It's more just sinking into the feeling. Then all of this opening that we're working on will just happen naturally. It's just a natural response to a warmth towards the other person. That's all it is. So here, something in me breaks here, softens here, softens here, softens here. And really, it's just me warming up to them. It's just me accepting them, being tolerant, and allowing the possibility of them coming in and for our exchange to get more intimate. People don't like this because it really makes you vulnerable and soft. So you no longer have force at your disposal. And so people here associate it with not feeling good. And so when I say to them, oh, that's great, you've got it. Look, feel that, you feel that. Oh, it's awful. They just want to go back to their hard, controlling self. So for a moment, you just become the mother that just embraces the child and lifts it up. Bring it back. Bring the hands down to the sacrum. So all of this physical work, we just want to really feel how it affects the mind. So when you put your hands on the sacrum here, how does that feel different than when I simply put my mind down there? It should feel much different. When we just use the mind, it's so easy to get it wrong. It's so easy to think that you're doing it and actually you're not. As soon as there's touch, even if it's just you touching yourself, it's just so much more real. Beautiful phrase of John's, everything touches and touch is everything. Where there's touch, there's magic. There's a miracle. If you're alive, then there is always a miracle waiting and wanting to happen. And it's far more likely to manifest through touch than anything else. And then just bringing the hands to the sternum. Feels like I'm still with the sacrum. Something is down there, pushing into the bone and driving it down a little bit. You can actually just touch here as well. And you can, I mean, the way they normally do it is with, I can't do it because I've got this microphone here, but they just make prayer, the two hands touching, and just bring the thumbs into the chest and just work the sternum up a little bit. You can do, yes, it's easiest to do these really when we're sitting down. The mind is sort of switching from sacrum to sternum all the time, just making sure that the relationship between them is in dynamic equilibrium, is playful and buoyant. Well, the image I used to use was, imagine, there's that wonderful movie, I think it's French, the boy with the red balloon. It's in black and white, but the balloon is red. And he's just going around, it's helium filled, and then at one point it escapes, and he's just, it's a short film, the whole movie is just him chasing the balloon. But this sense that the Dan Chen is the child's fist holding the thread, and the heart, the red balloon, is just bouncing, buoyant. It's trying to escape all the time. Just this idea that, you know, you just let the heart be free, and then you're just following the heart around all the time, trying to catch up with it, rather than keeping the heart controlled and locked down. Eyes feeling that they're receding backwards all the time. So I'm very much aware of the vast space here. This is the space of awareness behind the thinking mind. It's behind the heart. So it's the wings that come out here, and it's behind the Dan Chen. So the wings are really just like the ocean of awareness that we'd like to be able to just sink into. And now let's just bring it up. And just moving the weight gently. It's this sort of lilt, like the sapling that's being blown in a gentle breeze, and it's just bending slightly. So it's yielding to the pressure. And then just bring it back to stillness. But it's a stillness that's got that movement there, and it's always ready to sort of sway. Feel the sacrum, like you've got your hands on the sacrum. Feel the sternum. They're always playing, as are the two sides of the body, as are the front and back. So really the sternum is like the front and the sacrum is the back. So the back sinks and the front rises. John was very much into that. The opposite of the way the Chinese visualize this orbit, rising up the spine and coming down the front. And John was very much the opposite. So it's nothing to do with qi.